What a game. LA Rams took the Detroit Lions into overtime. Week 1 on Sunday Night Football. Overall, a fantastic game. There was a stretch there during the third quarter into the fourth quarter where I didn't think the Lions were going to be able to pull this one out. It was LA Rams all the way, had the momentum in Detroit, but the Detroit Lions proved that they're too much, they're too well rounded, they're too deep on both sides of the ball for a team like the LA Rams to take them down. So in this video, after letting the Sunday Night Football game stew and reflect for the past 24 hours, I want to go in and highlight 3 winners and 2 losers that we saw against the LA Rams. Let's go. First one has to be Jameson Williams. That man deserves his flowers. It's been a long time coming, but our boy finally had his coming out party. Jameson Williams had 121 yards, 1 touchdown, an overall fantastic game against the LA Rams. This is what we've been waiting for from him, and he delivered. When the lights shine, that's when you want your stars to come out, and that's what Jameson Williams did. He had a fantastic game, not to mention also having 13 yards on the ground, having that big play of 52 yards, going for a touchdown. Overall, fantastic game from him. He averaged 24.2 yards per reception on 5 receptions against 9 targets. His yards after the catch were 63 yards. I mean, when that guy gets the ball, it's lights out. You know, he puts the burners on and he can burn anyone in the league. And I think he showed that he has that skill set and that ability in this game. Not to mention, too, a sneaky stat is he had 3 receptions for first downs. So we're starting to see that, you know, he can fill that Josh Reynolds role. He can be that playmaker that moves the sticks for the Detroit Lions. So hopefully this just wasn't a one-time event. This is something that he can build on through the season and continue to get better as the season progresses. Up next, we need to talk about our boy, number 97, Aiden Hutchinson, who had a fantastic game rushing the passer. I felt like even though he got home only once, he was living in that backfield going up against the LA Rams backup tackles. He did a fantastic job of getting into Stafford's face, making him make quick decisions, quick throws. You know, albeit that Stafford and the Rams made a very good job of doing quick passes and getting rid of the ball quickly against our defense. But it's not because they wanted to. It's because they were forced to by this Detroit Lions pass rush and Aiden Hutchinson. I saw a stat, and I'll post it up here, but he was in the backfield. His pass rush win rate was 47%. So on 1 out of every 2 pass rushes that he had, he was winning against his man. As we can see in the PFF scores, his pass rush score is almost 96 out of 100. He had a fantastic game. Our boy feasted, and he played absolutely fantastic. So I hope that's something that he can build on and continue to get better. The sky's the limit for him. He might be one of those sneaky guys for Defensive Player of the Year if he can get up the sack numbers and get a couple interceptions like he had last year. In this game, he had 5 tackles, 1 sack. But where he made the biggest difference was with his pressures. Like I said, he was in the backfield. He was in Stafford's lap all day, in his face, making fantastic plays with the swim moves, with the spin moves. He was doing everything in his power to get back there. He got home once, of course, when it counted on the last play. But, you know, I think he had an overall fantastic day. Up next, our man of overtime, Demo, David Montgomery. This man pounded his way in overtime to a Lions victory. We saw him absolutely hammer the ball in overtime, forcefully will this Detroit Lions team to a victory. You know, this guy deserved his flowers as much as Jameson Williams. He was, outside of Jameson Williams, the only other person to have an explosive on the offensive side of the ball, but he did a fantastic job of moving the ball up and down the field, getting north and south, and absolutely slamming his body into other players, other Rams players. So kudos to him. He had 91 yards on 17 carries. Obviously the big touchdown at the end to seal the game in overtime. And he also had a long of 21 yards. David Montgomery is cementing his case as running back 1A to a very nice complimentary 1B to Jahmyr Gibbs. But this man is a man on the mission. I'm super excited for the year he's going to have. He's absolutely showing up and showing out, doing a fantastic job of finding the hole, running through the hole, and bouncing on guys like a pinball machine. I'm super excited for what David Montgomery brings to this team. He is that thunder to Jahmyr Gibbs' lightning. When you need those tough yards, when you need to exert your dominance like we did in overtime, call on David Montgomery because he's going to show up and push this team to that next level. As much as it pains me to say, our first loser from this game is going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown. I think he was still getting his legs underneath him, and we saw a couple plays where he slipped and fell, but he only had 13 yards on 3 receptions against 6 targets and a long of only 5 yards. This isn't the Amon-Ra that we know and love and that we come to expect. So moving forward, I think it's fair to say that we do expect more out of Amon-Ra. And I think this game hopefully was something that he quickly forgets and moves past. But it's also fair to say, too, that the Rams were scoping him out. They're looking for him, and they wanted to secure him and hold him back as much as possible. And as we see with Amon-Ra, his PFF scores, he ranked number 14 out of 17 offensive players. That's not where you want your newly highly paid wide receiver number 1 to rank amongst your offensive players. Hopefully this is a game that he can bounce back from and be the player that we know that he can be. And lastly, our second loser is going to be Brian Branch. I love our Bama boys, and I think he's absolutely fantastic. I'm not quite sure what got into him. I don't know if it was a transition to safety and him playing in a different position that he was playing from last year, but our man could not tackle a ball carrier to save his life. I'm going to pull up the PFF scores. He had a 36.2 tackling score, which was by far one of the lowest on the team. The next lowest was Amik Robertson at 48. So I don't know what happened necessarily with Brian Branch, but he had a very tough outing. It's not indicative of his play or his style or who he is, but it was just one of those games that he struggled in, and I think this is another one like Amon-Ra where we can expect this player to bounce back. But the beauty of this Lions team is we don't have to have great performances from these individual contributors every single week for us to win. This team is so deep with playmakers and on both sides of the ball, both offensively and defensively, where we don't have to rely on just one person to carry the load for us. We lived through that. We've been through that with those Stafford years, so we know what that's like. Thankfully, Brad Holmes and co. have built such a deep team that we don't have to rely on that one player to be impactful every single week. So when it comes to Amon-Ra and Brian Branch, I fully expect both these players to bounce back and be the players that we expect them to be. But also, with that said, I expect some other players to regress. That's the beauty of football. People are going to play well, people are going to play poorly. But overall, if the tide of the ship is high and the depth of the team is high, you're going to win games, as we saw against the LA Rams. So overall, I think the Detroit Lions had a fantastic game against the LA Rams. There were some causes of concern, especially in the secondary. I think they're still trying to mesh, get to know each other. They didn't have any preseason snaps together, so they don't have any live action outside of joint practices. So give them some time. I think Terrion Arnold had a good outing as a NFL rookie in his first game. He was pretty much on Cooper Kupp the entire time, which is just a monumental order for a first-time cornerback. And then the rest of the defense was fantastic in terms of showing pressure up front. Aleem McNeil, Marcus Davenport, Levi Onwuzurike, Aiden Hutchinson, all 4 of those players were attacking the passer on every single play. And I think that's something to be excited for. I think it's indicative of this defense being very downhill, being very attacking, trying to get the quarterback, and also stopping the run along the way. And not to mention, we did stop the run. We held Kyren Williams in check. We made the LA Rams one-dimensional. Granted, you made a Hall of Fame quarterback, probably top 5 in the league, one-dimensional, which isn't the greatest thing. But overall, I think the defense did a fantastic job. And, let's be real. The offense is so deep with talent that Jared Goff doesn't have to win it for us. Amon-Ra St. Brown doesn't have to win it for us. We have Jahmyr Gibbs. We have Sam Laporta. We have David Montgomery. We have Jameson Williams. All these players that can step up and make plays we're not reliant on just one superstar to step in for us. So I'm pretty high on the Lions after this game. I think we showed up. I think the same old Lions would have lost this game. We've been down that road 1,001 times before. So, with that said, we're on to week number 2. We have Tampa Bay Buccaneers this coming week, just slowly progressing through our playoff revenge tour. And we have Baker Mayfield coming to town. So, here we go. Week 1 is in the books. Lions are 1-0. We share the top of the NFC North Division with the Minnesota Vikings and the Chicago Bears. Packers are in the basement where they should be. But here we go into week 2.